Chapter 1161. Uncle Benjamin, I really don't know where Aunt Orissa is right now. She knocked me out and took the car. Julian was cautious with his explanation. He knew Benjamin would beat him to death if he continued to remain silent. Hearing this, Benjamin stared at Julian grimly as though assessing the truth of his statement. Julian shuddered when he met his uncle's stormy gaze. Uncle Benjamin, I'm telling the truth. If you don't believe me, you can ask the others. I was held hostage by Aunt Orissa. She even cut my throat. See, Benjamin glanced at the cut on Julian's throat apathetically. Then, he fished out his phone to give Orissa a call, only to find that her phone had been switched off. He resumed tracking her whereabouts and saw the red dot moving toward the nearest town, which was not too far away from here. Ethan, I'll leave you to handle matters here. The other bodyguards had shown up as well, and after giving Ethan instructions, Benjamin got into his car and headed in the same direction as Orissa. He would not rest until he had ensured Orissa's safety. Meanwhile, Ethan arranged for a few bodyguards to follow Benjamin so that they could protect him at the first moment of danger. Following that, Ethan had the rest of the bodyguards tie up Julian's men and give them a good beating. Soon, cries of agony echoed through the warehouse. Julian's heart dropped to his stomach when he heard his men wailing in pain. This sounds way too brutal. Presently, Orissa was driving toward town, and she occasionally looked into the rearview mirror to see if anyone was following her. She wasn't sure if her nerves had gotten the better of her, but she felt discomfort in her lower abdomen. Her brows furrowed. She could not slow down right now, not while she was on the highway. As such, she gritted her teeth and tried to bear with the discomfort. Just then, she noticed a car approaching her. She could not get a proper look at the license plate number. When it continued to follow her for a while, she began to worry that Julian's men might have caught up to her, and she stepped on the gas. Benjamin put on the hazard lights in hopes of getting Orissa to slow down, but she sped up instead. Orissa's eyes darted from the rearview mirror to the road ahead. When she saw that there were no other cars coming from behind, she merged into the next lane. Noticing that the car tailing her had followed suit, she slammed on the brakes. Unexpectedly, the driver behind her hit the brakes, too. She started panicking as she looked around the car for anything she could use as a weapon. She had not killed the engine yet, and her foot was on the gas pedal. If Julian's men got out of the car and tried to corner her, she was prepared to knock them over. However, she froze when she saw the person who was getting out of the car. Her eyes lit up in surprise. It was her husband. Benjamin walked up to her side of the window and tapped on it. She quickly opened the door. I didn't think you'd come. The knot in Orissa's stomach loosened as she stared at Benjamin in disbelief. Are you hurt? Benjamin asked as he assessed her nervously. When he switched his hazard lights on earlier, he had been shocked to see her speed up instead of slow down, and he hesitated to tailgate her after that. No, Orissa answered with a shake of her head. There was a sudden cramping sensation in her lower abdomen, and she clenched her jaw as she admitted, but my tummy's hurting right now. At once, Benjamin bent down to unfasten her seatbelt and carry her out of the car. I'll take you to the hospital right now. Orissa was ashen-faced, and the pain stopped her from making any sudden movement. She let Benjamin put her in the backseat of the car. He draped a blanket over her, and only then did he speed off in the hospital's direction. Do you feel better now? He asked every once in a while, glancing in the rearview mirror to see how she was doing. I think so, Orissa replied, pulling herself together. Benjamin stepped on the gas and pulled up at the hospital in record time. He had also called Sean on the way. A team of doctors was already waiting at the entrance by the time Benjamin carried Orissa out of the car. Boss, put Orissa on the bed, Sean said loudly to Benjamin. Benjamin quickly did as he was told, then followed the medical team as they wheeled Orissa into the emergency room, intent on staying by her side. Orissa grabbed his hand as if to calm him down. Don't worry, the pain is more bearable now. Stop talking, he urged soothingly as he stuck by her side. When they reached the emergency room, Sean stopped Benjamin from going any further. Boss, stay outside, we can't let you in. Chapter 1162. Benjamin frowned, but he stopped anyway and said gravely, make sure she's safe. Don't worry, boss. I'll be going in now, Sean said, then closed the doors after he went into the emergency room. Benjamin waited anxiously outside, his gaze fixed on the doors of the emergency room. He wanted nothing more than to go in there right now and stay by Arissa's side. Arissa had already shown signs of a possible miscarriage before this, and coupled with the pain she had felt earlier, Benjamin could not help worrying for her and the baby's well-being. I should have protected her. If I had, then Julian would never have been able to capture her in the first place. Seething with rage, Benjamin called Ethan and said coldly, "Take Julian to the basement." Hearing this, Ethan cast Julian a sidelong glance and answered over the phone, "Yes, Mr. Graham." "Have you found Mrs. Graham?" When he heard from Benjamin that Arissa was currently in the emergency room, Ethan did not spare Julian any courtesy. He tied Julian up and unceremoniously tossed him into the car. "Watch it, Ethan. I'm still a scion of the Graham family." Julian snapped after being manhandled by Ethan. It was bad enough that Benjamin had given him a rough beating, and now, even Benjamin's lapdog was treating him with such apathy. "Watch it. Mrs. Graham is in the emergency room after the hell you put her through, and you expect me to go easy on you? If anything happens to her, you're as good as dead." Ethan was furious. He slammed the car door shut, then told the bodyguards to bring Julian's men to the police station. These people deserve to be behind bars forever for kidnapping Mrs. Graham. Julian, on the other hand, grew nervous when he heard Ethan's words. He remembered Arissa had been relatively unharmed throughout their exchange in the warehouse, save for her swollen wrists. "I didn't do anything to her. What does her getting hospitalized have to do with me?" Even if he had planned on hurting her, Arissa had outsmarted him and escaped before he could lay a hand on her. How is it my fault that she ended up in the hospital? Mrs. Graham wouldn't have been so scared as to suffer abdominal cramps if you hadn't kidnapped her in the first place. You'd better pray that her baby is okay. If not, you'll be a dead man soon enough. Ethan then took off one of his socks and stuffed it into Julian's mouth. Julian gagged in disgust and began struggling wildly. His eyes watered from the stench of Ethan's sock, and for a moment, he thought he would pass out. He was outraged. He wished Arissa would lose her baby as a result, but at the same time, he could not help fearing what would become of him if that were to happen. If she lost the baby, then Julian would have succeeded in exacting his revenge against Benjamin, but at what cost? It would have been fine if Benjamin did not know he was the kidnapper, but he had already blown his cover in front of Arissa back at the warehouse. Later, Ethan brought Julian to Yaleview and locked him in the basement. Surrounded by impenetrable darkness, Julian was scared and anxious, unsure of the fate that awaited him. Over at the hospital, Arissa was wheeled out of the emergency room after an hour. She had been awake when she was wheeled in earlier, but now, she was sound asleep. Benjamin's heart dropped to his stomach as he asked the medical team frantically, "How is she doing?" "She and the baby are both fine," Sean answered as he came out of the room to give Benjamin some peace of mind. Benjamin let out a breath of relief. He kept his gaze on Arissa, who was hooked up to an IV drip. He clasped her hand tightly, then followed closely as the doctors wheeled her into the ward. Once Arissa had been put up in the hospital room, Sean looked at Benjamin and indicated that they should speak outside the room. "Is she really all right?" Benjamin pressed urgently, frowning as he stared at Sean. It had only been days since she was last checked into a hospital. She did show signs of miscarriage before, and I'll admit, today was a pretty close call. She's lucky that she got to the hospital in time, but she'll have to be on bed rest from now on. Keep her away from stress and anything that might lead to an emotional outburst. In the meantime, I'll do my best to save her pregnancy, Sean explained grimly. After that, he clapped Benjamin on the shoulder and added comfortingly, "She's fine now, so take it easy and give yourself a break. See you later." He still had to go over some gynecology reports and could not stay here with Benjamin for too long. A wry smile played on his lips. "I'm a neurologist, but here I am playing gynecologist just because boss asked me to. Gosh, I should get a raise." Benjamin nodded, then waited until Sean left before going into Arissa's room to watch over her. Chapter 1163. When William rounded the corner in the corridor, he caught sight of a familiar figure and went over, confirming that it was indeed Benjamin's bodyguard. "Who's inside? Did Mr. Graham get hurt?" "It's Mrs. Graham," answered the bodyguard. Hearing that, William hurried in at once and met Benjamin's eyes. Upon seeing Orissa on an IV drip, he was perturbed. "Mr. Graham, what happened to Mrs. Graham?" "She's feeling a little unwell in the stomach," Benjamin replied evasively, not wanting the butler to worry. "Don't tell Dad about this. Let him have a good rest." William flitted his eyes from Benjamin to Orissa, then left after staying for a while. "Where did you go? What took you so long?" Darius asked curiously when William returned to the former's ward. Looking at the elderly man, the butler hesitated briefly before responding, "I couldn't find Mr. Bailey, so I had to look around the place." "Why are you looking for him?" "That fellow always listens to Benjamin. Go and call the director over for me." Darius wanted to get discharged, as he felt uncomfortable staying in the hospital. "Quick, otherwise, I'll go by myself." William knew he couldn't talk Darius out of it, so he quickly said, "Old Mr. Graham, just lie still. I'll bring the director here now." Soon, the hospital director rushed over, supposing Darius was worried about Orissa's condition. Before Darius could say anything, the director comforted, "Rest assured, old Mr. Graham. We'll do our utmost best to stabilize the fetus in Mrs. Graham's belly." Sean is very confident too. However, during this time, it'll be best for Mrs. Graham to be on bed rest. She mustn't be agitated anymore. "What did you say?" "Something happened to Isa, and she's in the hospital." As Darius spoke, he beckoned William to help him get down from the bed. William's head throbbed. He hadn't expected the director to bring this up right after coming over. Hastily, he went forward to support Darius. "Watch your step, old Mr. Graham. Mrs. Graham is already fine now. You knew about this too." Darius glared at the butler. No wonder he was so hesitant earlier. William bit the bullet and met his employer's gaze. "Mr. Graham was the one who told me not to tell you about it for fear that it'd disturb your rest." Knowing he had caused trouble, the director interjected in a hurry, "Old Mr. Graham, Mrs. Graham's condition has been stabilized now. As long as she takes things slower and makes it past the first trimester, she'll be all right. Quick, bring me to Isa. It wasn't even long ago that she was last hospitalized, and now she's here. Again, her body is in dire need of nourishment," Darius urged William. He wouldn't have peace of mind if he didn't at least take a look at Orissa. With that, the director and William accompanied the elder to Orissa's ward. Upon noticing them walking past her ward, Mary tailed them in curiosity. "Which ward are they in?" Darius queried anxiously. "Right ahead. You'll see it when you turn the corner." William tried his best to calm the senior down. "That little punk is doing this on purpose, huh? He deliberately hid here to keep me in the dark," reproached Darius while heading to the other ward. In the ward, Benjamin heard his bodyguard greeting Darius outside the door. Right after he tucked Orissa in, Darius' group entered the room. "How's Isa?" Darius approached to check out Orissa frowningly. Sparing a glance at them, Benjamin sighed lightly. "She hasn't woken up yet." He then greeted Mary upon spotting her. "Grandaunt. What's wrong with Isa?" Mary was clueless about the situation and was particularly worried to see Orissa lying on the hospital bed. "She's pregnant but has a little stomach upset, so she has been hospitalized for observation." Benjamin gave her a brief account of the situation. "She's pregnant." Mary was astonished yet concerned. Orissa's pregnancy was great news, but it was disconcerting that she was feeling unwell in the tummy. "The first 3 months are critical." "What did the doctor say?" Chapter 1164. "She needs to stay in the hospital to be monitored," Benjamin informed the uneasy elders. As Darius had told William to go back and prepare a well-nourished soup for Orissa, William quickly called over a housekeeper to look after Darius before rushing back to Old Manor. Since Mary was also hospitalized, she couldn't help with anything much and could only ask the nurse to buy some eggs on her behalf. How she wished she was at home, for the chickens she reared at home laid the most nutritious eggs. "Grandaunt, You and Dad should go back to your wards first and rest. If not, Orissa will get worried when she sees you two upon waking up, suggested Benjamin. Darius let out a deep exhale. Seeing that Orissa still hadn't regained consciousness, he quit lingering around to cause trouble. Take care of her and give in to her more. Pregnant women need to stay in high spirits. Darius was unsure what had happened and assumed the couple had had a fight or something along that line. Benjamin didn't explain any further, either. Dad was just hospitalized after getting overly worked up. If I were to tell him that Orissa is in the hospital due to being kidnapped by Julian, he would feel even worse. Then, Benjamin, please stay here with Issa. I'll come over again later, Mary said before leaving with Darius. Shortly after the duo was gone, Ethan arrived. Noticing Benjamin sitting by the bedside while holding Orissa's hand, he didn't intrude and simply inquired about the situation from the bodyguard at the door. Only after talking to Sean to find out more, did he then return to Orissa's ward. The moment Orissa opened her eyes and caught Benjamin's anxious gaze, she was briefly stunned. What happened to me? Am I okay? Her voice was moderately hoarse. When she was being treated in the emergency room earlier, she passed out in no time and hence had no idea what happened afterward. Feeling fretful, she stroked her belly, wondering if she had lost the baby. Don't worry, the baby is fine, Benjamin replied gently while caressing her head. Sorry for worrying you. Orissa shot him an apologetic smile. Nothing matters as long as you're in one piece. He stroked her face, distressed. Sean has ordered you to be on bed rest to stabilize the baby. Okay, she nodded, no longer daring to be careless this time. After all, she had already had signs of a miscarriage previously, not to mention she was overstrung because of the kidnapping today. Fortunately, the baby didn't give up on me. Our child is strong. I'll cooperate with the doctor, so don't be too worried. Orissa tightened her grip on Benjamin's hand in reassurance. The man leaned down and planted a kiss on her face. Did they do anything to you? Fearing that he would overthink things, she recounted the events earlier. His face turned purple with rage when he learned that Julian had the audacity to peep at her. Julian Graham is simply courting death. At that time, I took him hostage and escaped, so I wasn't injured badly. How did you deal with them? Orissa wasn't interceding for Julian, she was merely telling the truth. Except for Julian, the rest of them have been sent to the police station. The offense of kidnapping alone is enough to give them a hard time. I told Ethan to bring Julian to the basement, but I haven't dealt with him yet. Since he has nerves of steel, I shall teach him a proper lesson on decency as his uncle. Benjamin couldn't suppress the fury in his heart and was dying to rip Julian apart with his bare hands. What are you planning to do? Orissa wanted clarification, as she feared he would lose his rationality. HMPH. Since he dared to harbor thoughts about you, I will castrate him. Such a scumbag doesn't deserve to be part of the Graham family. It had been some time since she saw Benjamin being so vicious, so she momentarily froze. Is this punishment truly appropriate? However, as she recalled how Julian hadn't shown her any mercy earlier and his intent to take revenge on Benjamin, her wee bit of sympathy for him dissipated in an instant. Had she not escaped on her own, there was no telling what would have happened to her. After all, it wasn't impossible for Julian to do something even more outrageous for the sake of making Benjamin's life miserable. Chapter 1165. Just don't kill him, Orissa reminded, not stopping Benjamin. Still, she didn't want him to bring trouble upon himself either. Julian had gone out of line and deserved to be taught a lesson. No matter what, Orissa was his elder. It was inhumane of him to want to snatch her away from Benjamin to seek revenge on his uncle. I know what I'm doing, Benjamin reassured. I won't kill Julian, I'll just make him wish he was dead instead. She nodded and fixed her eyes on her husband. How did you know where I was abducted to? He found me immediately after I escaped, so he must have known my whereabouts as soon as I was taken away. It was a no-brainer. Benjamin didn't tell her that there was a GPS tracker in her necklace, as he wouldn't be able to locate her if he wanted to in the future if he did. The woman was going to continue asking when Mary showed up with a basket of eggs in hand. Issa, you're up. Are you still feeling uncomfortable anywhere? Grandaunt, I'm fine. Orissa smiled. She flashed a look at Benjamin, silently asking him how Mary knew about her hospitalization. The man arched a brow in return, implying that he wasn't the one who spilled the beans. I told someone to buy some eggs for me. They happen to be native ones, which are exceptionally nutritious. It'll be best to have it raw, but if you can't handle it, consume it with water. Mary put the basket aside. That might sound like a walk in the park, but raw eggs were pungent, and Orissa had never eaten a raw egg before. Thanks, Grandaunt. Nonetheless, she was touched by Mary's sincerity. You'll get used to the taste after a few tries. Mary beamed. Your baby will only be healthy if your body is in good shape. Orissa bobbed her head smilingly. I'll eat them, Grandaunt. Mary wanted to prepare a raw egg for Orissa to eat personally, but Benjamin hurriedly intercepted her attempt. Grandaunt, kindly show me the ropes. I'll do it. Sure. Mary was glad to hear that and began teaching him how to do it. Benjamin was all ears. He cracked an egg into the bowl and stirred it while pouring hot water. Then, he added some sugar to lessen the fishy taste. Seeing how serious they were in preparing the raw egg for her, Orissa was beyond moved. When the egg was done, Benjamin stirred it to cool it off before helping Orissa sit up. Try and see if it's still hot. He fed her a spoonful. Not anymore. Still, the egg tasted weird, and she wasn't used to it. The man stirred it again and continued feeding her. Looking at how Orissa was pursing her lips as if she were having medicine, Benjamin and Mary were amused. Be good and open your mouth, he coaxed gently, his eyes dancing with joy. It doesn't taste bad. With Mary standing at the side, Orissa was extremely awkward. I've just never eaten eggs in this way before, she whispered. Taking in how attentive Benjamin was toward Orissa, Mary walked away quietly to give the couple some space. Grandaunt has left. Can I finish it later? Orissa negotiated. He knitted his brows. But it won't taste good anymore when it's cold. Her face scrunched up. The texture of the raw egg in water was slimy, and on top of that, Benjamin hadn't added much sugar. How about you add in more sugar? The man raised a brow. You could have asked earlier. Orissa watched him put in the sugar and stopped him when she felt it was enough. That will do. He tasted it and remarked in displeasure, I think it's too sweet. It doesn't taste good if it isn't sweet. She pouted, staring unblinkingly at him. Sighing faintly, he fed her once more. Try it now, then. Orissa took a sip. Much better. I'll do it myself. Taking over the bowl, she pinched her nose and finished everything in one go. Benjamin looked at her in amusement and teased. Does it stink? Chapter 1166. No, but it's slightly fishy. Orissa stuck out her tongue. Benjamin wanted to get some fruits to make her feel better, but there were none in the ward because he hadn't had time to buy them yet. Thus, he poured her a glass of water instead. Drink more water. I'll get someone to buy fruits. He patted her head. Upon exiting the ward, he saw Ethan and instructed the latter to buy some fruits and snacks that Orissa liked. Orissa was in a state of bliss. Benjamin stayed with her in the hospital until the evening before leaving with his assistant. He was going back to deal with his nephew. Julian had been held in the basement with no one attending to him despite his shouts. After what seemed like an eternity, the basement door finally opened, and he looked over emotively. A figure was standing against the light, exuding an intimidating aura. Julian knew who it was without having to take a clearer look. That murderous gaze immediately aroused fear in his heart. Uncle Benjamin, I really didn't hurt Aunt Orissa. Is she all right now? He tried playing the sentiment card, acting exceedingly humble. At this moment, he genuinely hoped that Orissa was well. If not, Benjamin was definitely going to skin him alive. Benjamin walked over to Julian and looked at the latter condescendingly. Julian was in a disheveled state and no longer carried that air of authority he used to. Which hand did you use to touch her? Benjamin's voice sounded like it had come from the dark abyss of hell, making one's hair rise in a heartbeat. A chill ran down the panic-stricken Julian's spine. I didn't. I'll chop off both your hands if you don't answer me. Benjamin scanned Julian's arms maliciously. Seeing that the man didn't seem like he was joking, Julian was in a blue funk. Uncle Benjamin, I was wrong. I shouldn't have foolishly kidnapped Aunt Arissa. I promise I won't do it again. Please spare me this time. He wanted to stand up, but his limbs were tied up, so he couldn't move. Spare you? When you kidnapped my wife, did she plead for your mercy? Uttered Benjamin expressionlessly, his tone laced with venom. Julian swallowed his saliva in terror. Arissa had, in fact, begged him for mercy. However, at that time, all that was on his mind was to take revenge on Benjamin, so how could he possibly let her go? Crouching down, Benjamin gripped his nephew's face and added, "Have I never told you not to lay a finger on her?" Scared witless, Julian first shook his head, then nodded. "I was wrong, Uncle Benjamin. I'll do whatever you tell me to." Too late. Benjamin wasn't a compassionate person, and this wasn't the first time Julian had crossed the former's boundaries. If I don't give him a taste of his medicine, he will only be even more unscrupulous in the future. Either be put behind bars or have your hand chopped off. Make your decision, he declared as he stood up. Julian was in extreme despair and infuriation simultaneously. Alas, he simply wasn't strong enough to go against Benjamin at present. If I go to prison now, my life will be over, but chopping my hand off is too cruel. If I become handicapped, everyone will look down on me. Are you done choosing? I don't have a lot of time to waste with you, Benjamin urged coldly, reminding Julian not to put up futile struggles. Uncle Benjamin, I'll give you my family's company. The latter closed his eyes in hopelessness. The former's eyes glinted. Did you seriously think you can compensate for the suffering my wife went through with that shoddy company of yours? Julian gritted his teeth. What else do you want, then? Weren't you very gutsy to peep at my wife? I'll make the decision for you, then. Benjamin waved a hand. In a flash, a group of bodyguards charged in from outside and rapidly held Julian down. When Julian saw a masked doctor walking in with a scalpel, he broke out in a cold sweat. What are you guys doing? Let me go. Don't be afraid. It's only a minor procedure and will be completed in no time. The doctor pretended to console him. However, that merely sounded ominous to Julian's ears, and he had a sense of foreboding. In the next instant, the doctor was removing Julian's pants and bringing the scalpel close to the latter. Upon comprehending what they intended to do, Julian screamed and immediately fainted. Wrap it up as soon as possible. Benjamin pressed Sean, finding the scene an eyesore. Roger that. The latter then began taking action in haste. It's just a vasectomy. No big deal. Chapter 1167. Benjamin glanced at the time. It's after school hours now. The kids are probably already home. As expected, when Benjamin returned to the main house, Gavin and the others had come back and were sitting on the couch, drinking water. Jasper was the first to notice the man. His eyes lit up. Mr. Graham, is Mommy not back yet? We're already back, but Mommy is nowhere to be seen. Is she sleeping? Gavin also looked back and asked, Daddy, is Mommy sleeping? Your mommy isn't at home. Benjamin glimpsed at them before going over to the kitchen to check if Edwin was done preparing the food. He wanted to bring some to the hospital. The 6 children exchanged glances with one another. After drinking their water and putting down their bags, they trotted to the kitchen. Mr. Graham, where is my mommy? Zachary asked curiously. Did Mommy go out instead of recuperating at home? Daddy, where's Mommy? Why aren't you with her? Gavin wouldn't let the matter go, either. When is Mommy coming home, Mr. Graham? Tim hadn't seen Arissa yet after returning from school, so he was missing her. Looking at the kids, Benjamin clued them in. Your mommy is in the hospital. Did she go there to visit great-grandaunt? Jesse thought Arissa was there to keep Mary company. Let's go to visit great-grandaunt, too. Oliver adjusted his glasses and looked at his siblings. They agreed with him. Let's wait for Mr. Whitley to finish preparing the meal so that we can have lunch with great-grandaunt. Daddy, will you be going to the hospital later? We want to go there to look for Mommy and keep great-grandaunt company. Gavin had already made up his mind to bring his siblings with him to visit Mary in the hospital. Benjamin had initially wanted them to stay home. However, seeing that they had confidently decided to go to the hospital, he had no choice but to agree. I'll take you guys there in a while. He nodded in approval. The children's eyes brightened. Yay, Daddy is bringing us to the hospital. Daddy, it's fine if you don't come along. We'll bring Mommy back, Gavin proclaimed, taking a gander at his father. If Daddy comes with us, we won't be able to play to our heart's content before his imposing presence. Your mommy is going to stay in the hospital for a period of time. She can't go home yet, Benjamin informed them in advance, fearing that they would pester Orissa later. Gavin furrowed his brows in concern. What happened to Mommy? Mr. Graham, did Mommy fall sick again? The children were especially worried about Orissa. Mommy was all right when we went to school in the morning. Why is she hospitalized again all of a sudden? Benjamin patted their heads and explained tenderly, your mommy encountered some pregnancy complications, so she needs to stay in the hospital for observation. During this time, she and I won't be able to keep you guys company at home. You all must listen to Mr. Whitley obediently. As Mommy, okay, Zachary frowned. Mommy is truly so fragile. This is so worrisome. She has already gotten better now. Benjamin pinched the boy's cheek lightly while urging Edwin to be faster. Edwin quickly packed up the food and followed the septet to the hospital. When Julian regained consciousness and saw that the doctor was still in the finishing phase of the surgery, the pain made him so furious that he blacked out a second time. How useless to be fainting from a minor surgery, Ethan ridiculed. Raising his gaze, Sean glanced at Ethan and teased, well, if you were in his shoes, being operated on without your consent, won't you pass out from fear too? Ethan took a gander at Sean and chuckled dryly. You're right, Mr. Bailey, you'll need to hurry up. There's no need to do it too perfectly. Whether or not there would be a scar on Julian, he could care less. Chapter 1168. Casting a brief look at Ethan, Sean smiled meaningfully. He thought he had been castrated. No matter what, I'll have to give him a perfect stitch, or else he won't be able to withstand the blow. Ethan was lost for words. Having no interest in the surgery, he stopped watching it lest it give him trauma. Sean smirked wickedly as he inspected his completed work. All right, you guys can take him away now. Ethan then beckoned the bodyguards to throw Julian out. Half an hour later, the man regained consciousness by the roadside and sensed the sharp pain between his legs. Deep hatred and ire washed over him. I'm still unmarried and childless, yet Benjamin. He's truly ruthless and clearly trying to get rid of my lineage. Julian's eyes were filled with intense animosity. He bellowed through gritted teeth, Benjamin Graham. Benjamin was oblivious to how Julian felt, not that he'd care about it. At this moment, he had brought the children to Orissa's ward. Mary and Darius were present too, and so was a nurse examining Orissa's vitals. When the kids saw their mother lying on the hospital bed, their eyes turned red, and they surrounded her at once. Mommy, you guys are here. Grinning, Orissa gazed at the children and comforted them softly, I'm fine. Don't worry. Facing her look of reproach, Benjamin explained, they were worried about you and insisted on coming. You told them, right? She was helpless. They will find out eventually, even if I say nothing. Benjamin and Edwin went to the coffee table to put down the food. If Benjamin and Orissa didn't go home for a day, the children wouldn't notice anything, but if it went on for several days, it was a given that they'd smell something fishy. Hence, it was better to tell them about it lest they overthink. After all, these 6 kids were sharp-witted. Benjamin wouldn't be able to keep them in the dark for long. Once the nurse was done taking Orissa's vitals, the latter motioned her children to come over. Her mood instantaneously lifted when she wrapped an arm around them and sniffed their milky scents. Upon knowing that his wife's vitals were satisfactory, Benjamin let out a sigh of relief. Are you hungry? He asked. Orissa was still embracing the kids. Have you guys eaten? She asked them. Not yet. We came here with Daddy right after school. Gavin replied while the rest shook their heads. Let's eat together, then. She stroked their heads and invited Darius and Mary to join them for lunch. Go eat over there with your grandpa and great-grandaunt. Your mommy needs to rest, Benjamin ordered, sounding so stern that no one dared disobey. Only after showing concern for Orissa for a while did the kids go over to dine with Mary and Darius compliantly. As Edwin took care of them, Benjamin sat by the bed and put the food on a small table to feed Arissa personally. Arissa wanted to ask him if he was done dealing with Julian. However, considering that Darius was around, she swallowed the question down her throat. "Eat first." Benjamin spared her a glance. Right then, William arrived as well. He immediately put down the soup when he saw that they had dug in. "Mr. Graham, let's have Mrs. Graham drink this soup first." Turning to look at Arissa, Benjamin asked gently, "Do you want to drink soup or have your meal?" "Soup," Arissa answered smilingly. She didn't want William's efforts to go down the drain. Moreover, drinking soup before eating would expand one's appetite. "Thank you so much, William." "Don't mention it, Mrs. Graham." Seeing that Arissa had gotten better, William was delighted. He didn't disturb the couple any longer and went over to tend to the children with Edwin. In an instant, the atmosphere in the ward turned pretty lively. Had Arissa not been lying on the hospital bed, one would think this was an ordinary family meal. Chapter 1169. When Sean and Ethan arrived, they were greeted by a vibrant and harmonious atmosphere in the ward. Jessie enjoyed the delicious food so much that she even brought her bowl to the hospital bed and shared it with Arissa. "Mommy, this is tasty. Try it." Arissa was deeply touched by her daughter's kind gesture and couldn't refuse it. She happily took a mouthful of the food and exclaimed, Yummy. "Mommy, have this too." The girl beamed with joy, her pink and tender face adorned with two adorable dimples. The small gaps in her front teeth made her appear even more endearing, so much so that Arissa couldn't resist the urge to hug and kiss her. Sean strode into the room, scooped up Jessie in his arms, and pecked her cheek. "What's so delicious? Can I have a taste, too?" He teased Jessie playfully, his eyes filled with affection for the little girl. "Hee hee, Mr. Bailey, I gave everything to my mommy. There are none left for you." Her eyes sparkled mischievously, their brightness and clarity captivating everyone's attention. She looked so lovely that it was hard for one to look away from her. Sean kissed her cheek again. "Let me give her a hug too." Ethan approached, attempting to snatch Jessie from Sean, but Sean was wary of the former's intentions and didn't allow him to succeed. "I haven't had enough yet." Sean scowled. Noticing her daughter's popularity, Arissa couldn't help but feel delighted. Benjamin cast a quick glance at the two men and inquired plainly, as the matter settled. "It's all taken care of, Mr. Graham," Ethan replied hastily, refraining from saying more upon spotting Darius. Benjamin didn't probe further and focused on feeding Arissa instead. "Mr. Bailey, can you put me down now? I want to eat," Jessie reminded Sean in a piping voice as she noticed that he was still holding her. Sean's heart melted, and he carried her to eat off someone's plate. "I'll feed you. Mr. Bailey, can you stop taking advantage of my sister?" Gavin's face contorted with jealousy when he saw Sean kissing Jessie every now and then. Sean glanced at the boy and rolled his eyes playfully. "Gavin, I'm not taking advantage of your sister. If your future brother-in-law hears what you said, he might misunderstand." Gavin scoffed and used a tissue to wipe Jess's cheeks in a slightly exaggerated manner. "In that case, stop kissing Jessie. You're not allowed to kiss her." Tim and the others nodded in agreement, chiming in, "Yeah, you're not allowed to kiss Jessie." Sean was nonplussed. "You all must be jealous of me. Is it because Jessie doesn't give you kisses, so you all can't stand it when I get to kiss her?" "We didn't even know you existed when we started kissing Jessie," Jasper exclaimed proudly and leaned over to give his sister a peck. Jess's face immediately became slicked with oil. She attempted to wipe her cheek with her hand, but Gavin intervened, saying, "Let me wipe it for you, Jessie." "Hee hee, thank you, Gavin," she replied, her eyes sparkling with gratitude. Gavin grinned from ear to ear. As she ate, Arissa watched the children with a smile, feeling an overwhelming sense of happiness in her heart. Noticing that all of his wife's attention was focused on the kids, Benjamin shifted slightly, positioning himself to block her view with his body. Arissa lifted her gaze and found herself locking eyes with the man, his intense gaze leaving her momentarily stunned. "Focus on your meal," he exhorted seriously. She glanced at him, sensed his thoughts, and chuckled. "You're blocking my view." Benjamin humped, resuming feeding her soup without moving away. At this moment, His phone rang with an incoming call from Kingsley. "What's up, boss? Why can't I reach Arissa? I went to pick up Gavin and the others from the school, but the teacher told me that they left long ago. When I went to your house, nobody was home either. Where did they go? I told Arissa earlier that I'd need their help tonight." Being in such close proximity, Arissa naturally could hear the caller's voice through the phone loud and clear. She met Benjamin's inquisitive gaze and responded with a nod smilingly. Had it not been for Kingsley's call, she would have completely forgotten about this matter. Chapter 1170. "We're at the hospital," Benjamin informed Kingsley. Suddenly, Kingsley's exclamation sounded from the other end of the line. "If you two are at the hospital, does that mean the kids are there too?" "Why is everyone there? My wife is unwell," Benjamin responded concisely before promptly hanging up the phone. His priority was to feed his wife. Arissa wanted to eat by herself, but he dodged her hand. "It's not convenient for you to eat on your own. Be good, and let me feed you." She blushed slightly and stole a glance at the energetic scene where the children were engrossed. It seemed that no one was paying attention to the couple. She shot her husband a look. "Be more mindful of the setting before you speak next time." How embarrassing would it be for the elders to hear this? The corners of Benjamin's mouth curled up in a mischievous smile as he whispered back, "They won't hear us." Arissa was left speechless, her mouth twitching slightly at his response. When Kingsley finally arrived, the children had already eaten half of their meal. He expressed his concern for Arissa, greeted Benjamin, and then sought the help of the kids. "Sweethearts, I'm taking you guys to my house for a feast." "Come on, we don't want to go," Gavin objected, looking at the man with a determined expression. He didn't want to leave Arissa's side and preferred to stay with her. Kingsley squeezed Gavin's cheek lightly and clasped his hands together, pleading, "Please, it's an emergency. As long as you all come home with me for tonight, I promise I'll buy anything you ask for in return." Seeing the spark of interest in the kid's eyes, he seized the opportunity and continued coaxing, "I'll even give you gift cards. With a significant value, but we want to stay with Mommy." Jesse voiced everyone's thoughts. Kingsley had proposed a strong temptation, but when faced with the choice between him and Arissa, they still chose their mother without hesitation. "Your mommy is already being taken care of by your daddy. If you miss her, I promise to bring you back here after dinner." Kingsley was determined to pull out all the stops to convince them. "What are you taking them to your house for?" Sean was puzzled. Kingsley smiled sheepishly, feeling a bit awkward. "Is it because your grandpa wants to introduce someone to you?" Darius hit the nail on the head right away. His close friendship with the patriarch of the Wattses, Victor Watts, giving him valuable insights into Kingsley's current dilemma. Kingsley smiled wryly. "Don't poke fun at me anymore, Mr. Graham. Had you not been provoking my grandpa from time to time, he wouldn't be acting like this." Darius and Victor were of the same generation. By right, Kingsley should address Darius as old Mr. Graham, but to appease the elder, he regarded Darius more casually, following Benjamin's lead. "If your grandpa hears you, he'll definitely give you a good beating." Darius laughed. "Mr. Graham, please don't go complaining to him. I'll be taking the kids with me now." Kingsley brought the conversation back to the main subject. Victor had been calling Kingsley repeatedly, but the latter didn't dare answer the phone until he had the kids with him. "Go back with Mr. Watts, then," Arissa encouraged, understanding Kingsley's urgency. "Mommy, are you really okay with us going?" Zachary looked at her with a hint of concern in his eyes. Although he was excited about the invitation from Kingsley, he couldn't help but worry about leaving his mother. "Go ahead, delicious food and gift cards await. How can you say no to that? Don't worry about me, you guys have fun." Hearing that, the kids finally agreed to accompany Kingsley back home. Kingsley expressed his gratitude to Arissa and promised, "Arissa, once you're discharged from the hospital, I'll treat you to a lavish meal." "Okay," she agreed readily. Meanwhile, Benjamin glared daggers at his friend. Kingsley smirked and hurriedly left with the kids, eager to avoid any potential interruption from Benjamin. "I haven't eaten yet, I guess I'll join you too," Sean chimed in, realizing he had no pressing matter at the moment. Hence, he decided to accompany Kingsley back to the Watts residence for a free meal. Ethan was tempted to join them as well. However, after considering Benjamin's earlier words from the morning, he gave up on the idea and stayed behind. "Why aren't you joining them?" Benjamin cast a sidelong glance at his assistant, his expression rather displeased. Ethan was struck dumb.